This is one of the most mysterious missing person cases in America. From TV shows to TikTok videos, podcasts, newspapers, and even FBI investigations, everyone has talked about it, but nothing really helped. People have their own theories. Some think she was murdered and her body was dumped in the woods, while others believe she planned to vanish and start a new life. But for how long can someone truly stay hidden? 1 year? 10? Sooner or later, the truth comes out. But in Maura's case, no one really knows, even after all these years. Maura Murray was a 21-year-old nursing student who disappeared on February 9, 2004, just 19 minutes after crashing her car on a quiet road in New Hampshire. Despite major search efforts, including helicopters, dogs, and thermal imaging, no trace of her has ever been found. No footprints, no body, just her locked Saturn car on the side of Route 112 with a box of spilled wine inside. 2 decades later, the case remains unsolved. Today, we're talking about what's often called America's first big social media mystery. The case started gaining attention just as Facebook launched in 2004. Since then, thousands of people have joined online groups trying to uncover the truth. But before we begin, if you're new to this channel, please subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos. Maura Murray was born on May 4, 1982. She had 2 sisters and 1 brother. Her parents divorced in 1988 when she was 6 years old. After that, she mostly lived with her mother, Lori, who worked as a nurse. But she was still very close to her father, Fred, who worked as a medical technician. Maura was an excellent student and a talented athlete. In high school, she broke school records in long-distance running in 1998, and she earned all scholastic honors from the Boston Globe and qualified for the U.S. National Scholastic Outdoor Championships that same year. She graduated near the top of her class from Whitman-Hanson Regional High School in June 2000. Her achievements were so impressive that Senator Ted Kennedy nominated her to the prestigious United States Military Academy at West Point. In fall 2000, Maura started studying chemical engineering at West Point. At first, she was excited, but soon, Maura started feeling stressed and tired because of the strict rules and hard life in military academy. Things got even worse when Maura was caught stealing a small makeup item in late 2001. She was punished very strictly, and it made her feel very upset and broken inside. Because of this, she decided to leave and officially left West Point on January 2, 2002. That same year, Maura transferred to the University of Massachusetts Amherst to study nursing, following in her mother's footsteps. She was focused on her studies and even worked night shifts as a campus security guard to support herself. But things still weren't easy. Over the next year, she tried to balance a heavy class load and part-time work, all while dealing with personal stress. In November 2003, Maura got into trouble for using a stolen credit card to order food, though the charge was set to be dropped if she stayed out of trouble. Still, life kept throwing more pressure her way, and it started to show. On February 5, 2004, Maura was doing her night shift as a campus security guard when she received a phone call from her sister Kathleen, who was struggling with alcoholism. Kathleen told Maura that she had just come out of rehab and was trying to recover, but instead of taking her home, her fiancé took her straight to a liquor store. This broke Maura's heart. She started crying during her shift and was so upset that her supervisor escorted her back to her dorm, where Maura said only 2 words: "My sister." 2 days later, on February 7th, Maura's father visited her at UMass Amherst. The next day, Maura and her father went car shopping and had dinner together. That night, she borrowed his car to attend a dorm party. Early the next morning, around 3:30 a.m. on February 8th, Maura crashed the car into a guardrail after returning from the party, causing serious damage. Police wrote a report, but there's no record of a sobriety test being done. After the crash, Maura spent the rest of the morning at her dad's nearby hotel. Later, he dropped her back at school before heading home. That night, he reminded her to get the accident paperwork so they could handle it soon. Despite everything going on, she continued studying turned in her assignments, and even stayed in touch with her professors. On February 9th, just after midnight, Maura used her personal computer to look up directions to the Berkshires and Burlington, Vermont. It seemed like she was planning a trip. Around 1 p.m., she emailed her boyfriend and wrote, "I love you more, stud. I got your messages, but honestly, I didn't feel like talking to anyone. I promise to call today, though. Love you, Maura." She also called a condo place in Bartlett, New Hampshire, somewhere her family had stayed before, but nothing was available. A few minutes later, at 1:13 p.m., she called a nursing student friend, but no one knows what they talked about. At 1:24 p.m., she emailed her nursing school supervisor saying she needed to take a week off because of a death in the family. But according to her family, no one had died. She said she'd be in touch when she got back. Then at 2:05 p.m., she called a service that provided hotel information for Stowe, Vermont. The call lasted about 5 minutes. Looking at all these events, it feels like Maura was planning to leave for a long time, maybe even permanently. But if that was the case, then why did she tell her nursing school supervisor that she needed a week off because there was a death in the family, when in reality, no one in her family had died at that time? That afternoon, Maura packed up her car with clothes, toiletries, textbooks, and birth control pills. At around 3:30 p.m., Maura left the university campus, driving her black 1996 Saturn sedan. At 3:40 p.m., she stopped at an ATM and took out $280. Then she went to a nearby liquor store and bought around $40 worth of alcohol, things like Bailey's, Kahlua, vodka, and a box of wine. Around 4 p.m., Maura left Amherst, most likely driving north on Interstate 91. At 4:37 p.m., she checked her voicemail. This was the last known use of her phone. No one knows exactly where she was going. She hadn't told anyone her plans, and to this day, her destination remains a mystery. Around 7:00 p.m., a woman living near Route 112 in Woodsville, New Hampshire, heard a loud noise. When she looked outside, she saw a black Saturn car stuck in a snowbank on a sharp turn. She called 911 at 7:27 p.m. Just before 7:30 p.m., a school bus driver named Butch Atwood was on his way home when he saw Maura's car crashed on the side of the road. He stopped and found Maura standing outside, shivering in the cold. He asked if she needed help and offered to call the police. But Maura said no. She told him she had already called the AAA, which is a service in America that helps people when their cars break down. But that wasn't true. She just didn't want the bus driver to call anyone. Still, the driver went home, just 100 yards away, and called 911 anyway. At 7:46 p.m., a police officer, Sergeant Cecil Smith, arrived at the crash site. The car was locked, and Maura was nowhere to be found. Her things were still inside the car, a box of wine, some clothes, maps, and a soda bottle that smelled like alcohol. There were no signs of a fight, no blood, no footprints in the snow, no wallet or phone. Between 8:00 and 9:00 p.m., police did a quick search of the area. They thought Maura might have run into the woods to avoid getting caught for drunk driving, but no tracks were found in the snow. On February 10th and 11th, the real search started. Police brought in helicopters with heat cameras, search dogs, and many volunteers. Still, there was no sign of Maura anywhere. Later that same week, her dad, Fred Murray, was told that Maura's cell phone pinged a tower in Londonderry, New Hampshire, 2 days after she went missing. That confused everyone. It made people wonder, was she still alive? Did someone take her? But that information turned out to be wrong. Maura's final confirmed cell phone use was at 4:37 p.m. on February 9th, 2004, when she checked her voicemail near Hadley, Massachusetts. After that, her phone went silent. No calls, no texts, no pings. Not long after that, news of Maura's disappearance started spreading. Her family made a website and posted missing flyers. And slowly, theories began to grow. Maura Murray was officially declared missing on February 10, 2004. That same day, police said she was last seen wearing a dark coat and jeans and carrying a black backpack. Her father, Fred Murray, was out of town at the time. He found out about her accident and disappearance on February 10th and immediately drove to New Hampshire. When he arrived, he joined the search. A tracking dog followed Maura's scent for about 100 yards from her car, but the scent disappeared near Bradley Hill Road. This suggested she may have gotten into another vehicle. The next day, on February 11th, Maura's boyfriend, Bill Rausch, flew in. He told police that he received a voicemail that sounded like Maura crying. A week later, around February 16th, Maura's family searched across Vermont, frustrated that police hadn't told other nearby states about her disappearance. About 10 days after Maura vanished, the FBI joined the investigation, turning it into a nationwide case. And during the second major search, Maura's sister discovered a pair of ripped women's underwear in the snow. But DNA tests showed they didn't belong to Maura. In March, police returned Maura's things from the car to her family. Her father, Fred, kept going back to the area every weekend to search on his own. Around April 2004, someone gave him a stained knife, claiming it had been used to harm Maura. But the story didn't hold up, and many believe it was just a trick to get reward money. After Maura Murray's disappearance, several private investigators and organizations became involved in the case. A group of retired police officers and the Molly Bish Foundation joined the investigation, believing it might be more than just a missing persons case. In October 2004, cadaver dogs showed interest in a nearby house once linked to a man who had been suspected by his own brother. A carpet sample from the house was tested, but the results were never made public. Another tip came in about a black backpack found near a scenic overlook, but police never confirmed whether it belonged to Maura. In 2005, Fred tried to take legal action to access the police files and continued reaching out to the media and even the governor to keep attention on the case. Despite all efforts, police said there was no proof of foul play or a serial killer and believed Maura had either run away or accepted a ride from someone. Still, her family never gave up trying to find her. Over the years, especially during 2005-2015, multiple searches were carried out in the woods near the crash site, and the case was eventually added to New Hampshire's official cold case unit in 2011. Maura's father continued to push for the FBI to take over the investigation, believing that she was abducted and possibly murdered. Although the state treated the case as a possible homicide, no solid evidence ever confirmed what happened. In the following years, police followed many leads, including searches of suspicious houses and analysis of items like a rusty knife given to Fred in 2004, which turned out to be unreliable. In 2016, bone fragments were found in the mountains, but none of them led to answers. In April 2019, police excavation of a home basement, once considered a promising lead, also turned up nothing. Even years later, the case remained open. In 2020, a property owner removed the tree at the crash site that had served as a memorial. A request to install a historical marker there was later denied. In late 2021, law enforcement announced they had found new bone fragments on Loon Mountain. But once again, they did not match Maura's DNA. By 2023, the FBI had created a special criminal profile to help agencies share information across jurisdictions. On the 20th anniversary of her disappearance, in February 2024, police released an age-progressed photo showing what Maura might look like as an adult to renew public interest and help generate new leads. Despite all these efforts over 2 decades, Maura's fate still remains unknown. Even after 20 years of searching, no one knows what really happened to Maura. As of 2025, the New Hampshire Cold Case Unit is still working on the case and calls it suspicious. In February, a vigil was held to mark the 21st year since she vanished. Some of the biggest unanswered questions are where Maura was going that night, what the story is behind a fingerprint found from her former classmate Baldwin, who had a criminal past, and whether she got hurt, died from the cold, or took a ride from someone dangerous. If this case touched you or made you think, you can support this channel in a few simple ways. First, give this video a like. It helps more people find and hear Maura's story. Leave a comment below with your thoughts or theories. We read each one. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the bell icon so you won't miss any future deep dives into unsolved mysteries like this one. And finally, share this video with someone who needs to know about Maura's case, because sometimes awareness is the first step toward answers.